Hi, welcome to Geek Do-It-Yourself Mechanic. This video is going to discuss the 4-stroke engine. I'm going to discuss it at a very high level as an introductory type of video to get you started in knowing how a modern 4-stroke engine works. You really need to understand the essence of the modern 4-stroke to understand how it's been enhanced in modern automobiles. So the goal again of this video is just to give an overview of the 4-stroke engine. So before delving into the actual 4 strokes, to understand the 4 strokes you sort of have to understand all the symbols I'm going to use and what makes up a cylinder. So let's go into that. Let's discuss the components. This represents one cylinder. This is the piston that goes up and down. This bottom part here, you'll see a seam right here. This bottom part would be considered the block, and this top part here would be considered the head. Okay, let's start with the component most people have heard about. It would be the spark plug. What that does is it's applied voltage. Which causes the electricity to jump this gap here, causes the spark, which would ignite the air-fuel mixture in the cylinder, which would cause expansion, the controlled explosion I was talking about, and pushes the piston down. So the orange represents air-fuel mixture. The red represents either burning or burnt air fuel. That's after it's exploded, right? And as it's exploding, expanding. And then the blue represents atmospheric air. That's what you and I breathe. So let's follow that train of thought. The atmospheric air, it goes into the cylinder, and this injector injects gasoline into that air, creating the air-fuel mixture. Clearly, this intake valve would have to open. It's actually going to move down, which allows atmospheric air to be drawn in, and then the injector would inject gasoline vapor. It sprays it like a spray bottle in very fine droplets, and then it combines in the cylinder here to make an air-fuel mixture, which then again is ignited, and then as it burns, pushes the piston down, and it'll be represent this red. And likewise, we have to get rid of that. So we have another valve that moves up and down, and the red here represents that mixture leaving. One last thing I'd like to add is around each cylinder are passages, coolant passages, that helps draw the heat out of the cylinder and takes it to the radiator where it's dissipated, and coolant is brought in to help to keep this block and head at a very good operating temperature. In addition, there are oil passages to take oil up to the cylinder head. Oil clearly needs to be applied to these valves so they don't seize, because if you think about it, part of it is in great amount of heat and it moves up and down, so the oil helps keep that cool. Let's discuss the strokes that make up the 4-stroke engine. Each cylinder goes through these 4 strokes. And if you look at these 4 strokes, the main stroke is the power stroke. So what I'm saying is these other 3 strokes are in preparation for the power stroke. The power stroke is where the work gets done. That is the stroke that pushes down the piston forcibly, which then is converted into rotary motion, remember, and that's delivered to the transmission, then via the axles to the tires. So the power stroke is where it's all done. These other strokes prepare for the power stroke. So let's begin. Let's start at the beginning. Intake stroke. The goal of the intake stroke is to get air-fuel mixture into the cylinder. How is that done? The intake valve is opened, allowing atmospheric air to be drawn in, because this piston is moving down, so it's like a syringe. It's bringing in, drawing in atmospheric air. At the same time, the injector is misting gasoline vapor into that atmospheric air, creating an air-fuel mixture in the piston that's being drawn in as the piston moves down. As the piston starts to move back up, we move to the next stroke. The next stroke is called compression. The goal of that is to take that air-fuel mixture and compress it, so when you ignite it, it creates more power. And the piston's at the very top, and you can drive it down. So this piston is moving up in the compression stroke. Both valves are closed, sealed, so we can compress that air-fuel mixture as tightly as possible. As it reaches the top, it starts heading back down. The power stroke begins. Notice the valves are closed, the injectors are off, and the spark plug causes a spark. Electricity is applied to it, causes electricity to jump that gap, creates a spark, and ignites the air-fuel mixture, forcibly pushing this piston down. That's the power stroke. It's pushing the piston down. And again, that up and down motion is then translated in circular motion that's delivered to your tires. So as the piston reaches the very bottom and is heading back up, it's the exhaust stroke. This is pushing up, and the exhaust valve opens and it pushes out. It's like when you push on a syringe, it pushes this exhaust gas out. And then as it reaches the top, it goes back to intake. Because remember, intake is headed down from the top, drawing in a fresh air-fuel mixture. Now that you understand the 4 strokes, let's see it in motion. So now we're on the intake stroke. Now we're on the compression stroke. You'll see the air-fuel mixture is being compressed. There's the spark igniting the air-fuel mixture, causing it to explode, the controlled explosion, pushing the piston down. The exhaust valve opens up and the exhaust gas is pushed out, and we start over again. Intake, compression, spark, which then causes the power stroke to start, forcibly pushing the piston down. Now we need to get rid of that burnt gasoline, air-fuel mixture, that is. So let's see a little quicker. What you have to note is that the motion of the piston moving up takes 180 degrees of the circle, and going down takes up the other 180. Therefore, the piston moving up and down is 360. But as you know, there's 4 strokes, so it has to move up and down sort of twice, 4 times, right? One could say 4 direction changes. Therefore, it takes 720 degrees. So let's look at that over here. So let's slow down, and we'll wait till it's on the intake. It's on the exhaust now. So here it starts from 0 to 180 is the intake, and it's going down. Now it's going back up, the compression stroke, and now it's 180 to 360 of the crankshaft. Now it's being pushed back down. Now it's 360 to 540 degrees. And now it's going back up. So therefore it takes 720 degrees for the full 4 strokes to occur. Now that you understand the 4 strokes And you now know it takes 720 degrees for the 4 strokes to complete. Let's discuss how engineers make these powerful engines that we drive. What we really want is, in fantasy, we wish we could only be in the power stroke. If we were constantly in the power stroke, we'd be constantly applying power up and down to the piston, creating circular energy, applying constant power to our wheels. That's what we would love. Well, we know we can't because each cylinder takes 4 strokes. So what they do is they usually have more than one cylinder, and they're on different strokes. Let's talk to that. So a single cylinder engine, classically in a weed whacker, mower, edger, that are gasoline, that is, they usually have one cylinder. So how often is power being applied? Well, let's take this equation here. To determine how often power stroke occurs, you take 720, if you remember that's the number of degrees it takes for the 4 strokes to complete, divided by the number of cylinders, in this case 1. Therefore, every 720 degrees is a power stroke. So to get any power, if you think about it, you hear those things revving pretty high. A lot of revolutions per minute so they can generate power. But most cars usually aren't on a single cylinder. I've seen some at 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, and 12. Why do they do that? Well, let's hope this discussion helps you understand that. So what they do is they stagger the strokes among, we're going to talk about the 4 cylinders, among the 4 cylinders. Well, let's see, using this equation, how often a 4-cylinder is in the power stroke. So you take 720 divided before, you get 180. Therefore, every 180 degrees, a power stroke is occurring. What they do is they create these sister cylinders. And in this case, 1 and 2 are sister cylinders, and 3 and 4 are sister cylinders. What that means is there's 360 degrees out from each other, but they're headed, meaning they're headed in the same direction. So if one piston's going up, the other piston is going up. If it's going down, it's going down. But they're 360 degrees apart in the strokes. So let's see what I mean by that. So 1 and 2 again are sister. The power stroke is which direction? Down. Well, so is intake. If you remember, intake is going down. That's drawing in the air-fuel mixture. Power stroke is being forced down. Well, likewise, 3 and 4 are sister. Compression is what? Moving up. Well, so is exhaust. So that this configuration allows the every 180 degrees you're in a power stroke. Let's look at the V8. For the advanced math people, you will notice that if you have 5 cylinders or more, you have overlap in the power strokes. What does that mean? Well, if you remember, a power stroke takes 180 degrees. So if you can fire in less degrees apart than 180, you have overlap. And 5 cylinders and greater engines have overlap. Let's see what that means. Let's look at an 8-cylinder. So we take 720 divided by 8, and we get 90 degrees. Every 90 degrees, remember 360 is comprised of 4 90-degree segments, you're firing. So now you can see how you're almost always in constant power, and that's why you can see them wanting 10 and 12 cylinders. So this allows, a V8 allows 90 degree of power overlap. And again, they do the same concept here. They have sister cylinders, and I'll just talk about this one. 1 and 6, you can see they're on the same direction stroke, but 360 degrees out. As you're in power, that's up, so is intake. It's moving up. Its sister is also moving up. So let's see it in action, and these tables will update so you can see how they're going through their strokes individually, each cylinder. It's a little slow because your eye has to follow it. I can make it go a little faster. But you can see it takes a long time. These are all moving at the same RPM. So you can see how long it takes for a single cylinder, 4-cylinder, and a V8 to be in power. You see the V8 is always in a power stroke. So is the 4-cylinder, but there's no overlap. And you can see the cylinders here changing the stroke they're in. And if it's capitalized, means they're starting the stroke, like this one. Now that it's slow, I'll speed it up. You can please go to this webpage and play around and have it go at the speed you desire. So I'm going to go 2 times the speed so you can see. Again, they're all matching RPM. And you can see on the single cylinder, you're waiting a long time for the power stroke. 4-cylinder, you're always in one, but there's no overlap. V8, you're definitely having overlap. You're always applying power to that crankshaft. Thank you for watching. I hope you found the information helpful.